Hello?
Hi, everybody!
Hello? Hi!
Hi, guys!
Hi! How's it going?
Hello, everyone.
It's Friday, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank God.
Happy Friday! Yippee! I feel like this week has really gotten away from me. I don't know who I am or where I am or what I am. You know, you ever have one of those weeks?
I feel it. I feel it. I feel like it's been really busy for me this week. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy it's Friday.
Yeah, I feel like, and well, also it's just because it's like Halloween season. But Halloween season as a VTuber is always like, because there's like a million things happening.
Yes, yes. I'm glad to be here. I'm sorry, everyone. We did have to reschedule this because the day that we were originally going to do this, I had no internet, so we could not do this.
Yeah, Dreamy's back, you guys. Dreamy's back from the freaking dead. I mean, that's not true, but
I'm just happy that nothing really bad happened to me. I really avoided the worst of it, very narrowly avoided, but you know.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
This was the true horror of this month for me.
So true. We don't need to read a scary story. We just need to read the tweet that you put out that was like, you guys, I can't stream anymore because my apartment almost got crushed by a tree.
Yes.
Yeah. But hi, everybody. Welcome. Today I'm joined with my lovely group mate from VIVARIA, Dreamy Etude. And we are going to be reading some scary stories, but I think more likely, Dreamy's already picked the stories, so I think it's gonna be Dreamy reading scary story and me being live horse reaction with chat input. I
have one for sure good one because I have heard this story before, and then the others are, I would say, I don't know, guys. I chose them based on the name. They're from the creepypasta website, you know.
Nice.
So. I have like I did pull up like that's the real horror. I did pull up Reddit because I might read some stuff from Reddit, but I figured, you know what, let's go full creepypasta, right?
Teeny little quiet and compare. Okay, wait, hold on. First of all, does this help? Not really. It doesn't really change, does it? I've been having issues with my freaking mic lately. I don't know what's going on.
I feel
like I need to. Yeah, I don't know. I think my audio interface is like dying a little bit.
No.
Yeah, I think it might be time for Go XLR moment eventually, but.
Oh my gosh.
Scary. That's a horror story. Audio.
That is a horror story. I do have an audio interface that I use for a separate mic for when I record covers, but my main mic is straight up just a USB mic.
Yeah, mine has like the ability to be USB and what is it called? Is it XLR? Is that what it's called? Anyway. I have like a really big fancy mic and I do have it plugged into like a Focusrite. But the Focusrite is like little. It's only like one plug-in, one thing to like deal with. So it's like substantially less baby's first audio interface, but I feel like if I get a Go XLR, it's gonna have 1 million things, and I'm gonna be like, Too much.
Who'll even know what's going on there?
Is the audio a little bit better? Is it a little bit more balanced? Question mark, question mark. But I hope you guys are doing well. Let me say hi to everybody who's here. Misha, thank you for being first. Yippee! Hi, Sphinx. Hi, Exceed. Hi, Plardy. Oh my god, Sphinx, thank you for the 3-stream streak. Big Papa John, thank you for the follow. Vane Abyss, thank you for the follow. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, Rom. Is there anyone I'm missing? Hi, Worm. Hi, Nexie. Nexie never redeems the check-in. She loves to be an enigma. That's how I feel in the Clover stream, though, also. Like, I've never redeemed, or I've only done it, like, 3 times, and now I only do it if it's, like, for comedic effect. Like, if people are like, Teeny, you're never here, and then I say, no, I am, look, and then I check in, and it's like, I've watched 5 streams or something like that. It's awesome.
I feel like I rarely ever do the check-ins as well, so I feel that. I feel that.
Well, this stream might be a little bit shorter just because we're just yapping, and we started a little bit later than intended, but I hope that's okay. And I'm having a funny drink because Dreamy said, what if I need the alcohol to survive the scary story, which is probably true.
Yes, because like I said, one of them I know for sure is good. The others, guys, I cannot guarantee the quality of any of these other stories. Okay, I can only guarantee the quality of one of the stories. So I'm sorry,
scared.
everyone.
I'm scared.
It's okay. I'll start off with a short one. This one is, the estimated reading time is 7 minutes long, so this one's pretty short.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, this one is called The Last Channel.
Okay.
Okay. My grandmother died at 3:33 a.m. on a Tuesday, and her TV wouldn't turn off. Not wouldn't, couldn't. We unplugged it. We cut the power to her room. We even took a hammer to the screen, but it kept playing. The jagged cracks creating a kaleidoscope of images that shouldn't exist. Channel 0. A channel that wasn't supposed to be there. The funeral home worker, a skeletal man named Dennis who smelled like formaldehyde and peppermint, suggested we just leave the TV. Some people, he said, not meeting my eyes, leave echoes. We left the TV. My name is Zara Chen, and I'm what you'd call a digital archaeologist. I find lost media, banned episodes, deleted scenes, the kind of footage that corporations pay big money to keep buried. 3 years ago, I found the unedited version of that kid's show where the puppeteer had a breakdown on live TV. Last year, I recovered the original ending to The Celestial Frontier before the studio changed it. I'm good at finding things that don't want to be found, but I've never heard of Channel 0. After the funeral, I went back to Grandma's house. The TV was still on in her bedroom, still showing that impossible channel. No static, no test pattern, just content. A cooking show where the chef was preparing a meal I didn't recognize. The meat was iridescent, still moving on the cutting board. The chef's face was blurred, but his voice was clear. The secret is to cut against the memory, not the grain. Then, a news broadcast. The anchor was reading headlines backwards, not the words backwards, the events backwards. A building uncollapsing, a murder victim coming back to life, a war ending before it started. Then, a sitcom filmed in an apartment I recognized. My apartment.
I was like, Friends?
We wish it was Friends. But not as it was, as it would be. There was a crack in the wall that didn't exist yet, a stain on the carpet I hadn't made, and sitting on my couch laughing at a joke I couldn't hear, me. But older, maybe 50, with a scar across my left eye I didn't have. The other me turned and looked directly at the camera, smiled, waved. I did what any rational person would do. I stole my dead grandmother's TV. I would not take the TV. It's still, there's still more.
Okay.
I would not take the TV, though, is what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah.
It took 2 hours to get it into my apartment. The thing weighed at least 200 pounds despite being a flat screen, and it was warm. Like it was running a fever. My super, Marcus, helped me carry it up. Thing gives me the creeps, he said, eyeing the screen. Channel 0 was showing a game show where contestants were betting years of their lives. Your grandma watches some weird shit. She was a weird lady. After you left, I set up every recording device I owned. 6 cameras, 4 phones. Okay, who the fuck has 4 phones and 6 cameras?
I mean, I have
a
3.
nut. That is not 4.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay.
2 laptops. If Channel 0 was showing the future, the past, or some fucked up alternate dimension, I was going to document everything. For the first 3 hours, nothing useful. A talent show where people performed skills that didn't exist. A documentary about a war that never happened. A cartoon where the characters were geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. Then, at 11:47 p.m., a talk show started. The host, my grandmother. Alive. Young. Maybe 30 years old, wearing a red dress I've never seen. Good evening, she said, looking directly into the camera, directly at me. Welcome back to the viewing. Tonight's guest is very special. She's been trying to find us for 3 days now. The camera panned to the guest chair. Empty. Oh, she's shy, Grandma said, laughing. That's all right, Zara. Honey, you don't have to sit down yet. You're not ready. My blood went cold. But you will be, she continued. In about 17 minutes, you're going to receive a phone call. Answer it. What happens next is very important. The whole thing falls apart if you don't answer. The whole thing? I said out loud, my voice cracking. Grandma's eyes sparkled. The world, sweetie. Everything. It all depends on you answering that phone. Then, commercial break. But the commercials were wrong. An ad for medication that didn't exist. Ask your doctor about Chronitol. Side effects include bleeding from the eyes, temporal displacement, and moderate dry mouth. A fast food commercial for a restaurant called The Last Meal, where the slogan was, it's never too late to eat again. A PSA about viewer safety. Remember, if you can see Channel 0 can see you. Please remain calm. Your viewing experience may be monitored for quality assurance and continuation purposes. The talk show came back. Grandma was sipping tea. 4 minutes now, Zara. The phone's going to ring. You should prepare yourself. The person calling has been dead for 6 years, so it might be a little awkward. The phone rang at exactly 11:58 p.m. Unknown number. My hand shook as I answered. Hello? Breathing. Wet. Labored. Then, Zara. Oh God, Zara, is that you? I knew that voice. Impossible, but I knew it. Dad? My father died when I was 19. Drunk driver. Open casket funeral. I watched them lower him into the ground. Baby, listen to me very carefully, he said. Oh, he said, I don't have much time. They only give me 3 minutes. You need to stop watching Channel 0. How are you? It's not TV, Zara. It's a door. Your grandmother spent her whole life keeping it closed. Now that she's gone, it's opening, and you're the only one who can... Static. When the call cleared, it wasn't my father anymore. It was me. My own voice, but wrong. Too high-pitched, speaking in a rhythm that was almost, but not quite right. Hello, Zara. This is you. Not the you that you are, but the you that you'll be if you don't hang up right now. I'm calling from Channel 0. I've been here for 17 years. There's no way out, and you're about to let me in. I hung up. The TV went black for exactly 5 seconds. Then Channel 0 came back, and it was showing my apartment live. From a camera angle that didn't exist, I could see myself standing there, phone in hand, staring at the TV. But in the corner of the screen, behind me, something was crawling out of the dark. Something that looked like me. Give me your reactions, you know?
I was fine until it was like a thing crawling behind me, and then I was like, no. Okay, continue.
Okay. But in the corner of the screen, behind me, something was crawling out of the dark. Something that looked like me, but stretched. Wrong. Moving in reverse. I spun around. Nothing there. But on the TV, the thing was getting closer to me on screen. I ran. Out of my apartment, down the stairs, into the street. I ran until my lungs burned, until I was 12 blocks away. Until I was sure I'd put enough distance between me and that TV. I stopped at an all-night diner, ordered coffee I didn't drink, tried to slow my racing heart. The TV above the counter was on. The cooking show again, but now the chef was preparing me. I could see myself on the cutting board, still moving, and the chef was saying, the secret is to cut against the memory, not the grain. Viewers at home should try this recipe. It serves one, but lasts forever. Every TV in the diner switched to Channel 0. The waitress didn't notice. The other customers didn't notice. They kept eating, kept talking, kept living, while every screen showed versions of a reality that couldn't exist. On one TV, my funeral, I looked 70. On another, my wedding to a man I'd never met. On another, a news report about my arrest for a murder I hadn't committed yet. Channel Zero wasn't showing me the future, it was showing me all futures. Every possible timeline branching from this moment. And in every single one, I was watching Channel Zero. I went back. I don't know why. Maybe because running didn't work. Maybe because I needed to understand. Maybe because some part of me, the part that hunted down lost media, that couldn't leave Misters alone, needed to know. The apartment was dark, the TV was off, but I could feel it waiting. I turned it on manually. Channel Zero flickered to life. My grandmother's talk show was still playing, but now I was sitting in the guest chair. Not future me, current me. I watched myself sit down, watched myself talk to my dead grandmother, watched myself explain what was happening. I don't understand, I said on screen. How am I watching myself right now? Grandma patted my hand. Because you already made the choice, honey, 3 days ago, when you took the TV. When you started watching, Channel Zero doesn't show you the future, the past. It shows you the inevitable. That can't be. You're a finder, Zara. You find things that are lost, but Channel Zero isn't lost. It's been waiting. And now it's found you. The me on screen started crying. The me watching wanted to turn away, but couldn't. What happens now? Screen Me asked. Grandma smiled sadly. What happens to all shows when they get good ratings? They get renewed, season after season, forever. The studio audience appeared for the first time. Rows and rows of people, all of them dead, all of them people I'd known. My father, my high school best friend who overdosed, my uncle who died in Afghanistan, my college roommate who vanished junior year. And in the front row, other versions of me, dozens of them, all the Zaros from all the timelines where I'd made the same choice. They were all watching. They'd all been watching forever. I unplugged the TV. It stayed on. I threw it out the window. Before it hit the ground, it vanished. I ran downstairs. No TV, no broken glass, nothing. Back in my apartment, the TV was on the wall, exactly where I'd hung it. Channel Zero. My grandmother's show was ending. That's all the time we have tonight, she said. Thank you for watching. Remember, Channel Zero is always on, and if you can see Channel Zero, the studio audience finished and using Channel Zero can see you! Fade to black. Then, a preview for tomorrow's episode. Coming up next on The Viewing, Zara Chen tries to convince someone else that Channel Zero is real. It doesn't go well. Plus, cooking tips, temporal paradoxes, and a very special musical guest who died in 1962. You won't want to miss it. That was 6 months ago. I still watch Channel Zero every night, all night. I've tried to stop. I've tried everything, but every TV I encounter, every screen, every reflective surface eventually shows me Channel Zero. It's in my phone, my laptop, the black screen of my microwave. Yesterday, I saw it in a puddle. My grandmother was right. Once you're a viewer, you're always a viewer. But here's the thing they didn't tell me. I'm not the only one watching anymore. Last week, my neighbor asked if I knew anything about that weird channel. Yesterday, Marcus the Super mentioned he'd been having strange dreams about a talk show. This morning, I saw a Reddit thread. DAE keeps seeing Channel Zero? 43 comments in 2 hours. It's spreading. My grandmother kept the door closed for 70 years. I opened it in 3 days, and now Channel Zero has good ratings. Very good ratings. Emergency broadcast alert issued. Error. Date not found. If you're seeing this message, do not adjust your television. Channel Zero is experiencing technical difficulties. Please continue watching. Your viewership is mandatory. Thank you for your cooperation. And then in parentheses, it says static. Coming up next, you. And that's the end of the story.
What? I feel like when it said like studio audience, unfortunately, because I'm such a fucking sitcom guy, I just was like, yeah, yippee, like studio audience of like laugh track, ha 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 ha, like clapping in the background. Yes. So
yeah,
that was kind of cool.
That one's not that bad. That one was pretty. That was like just a fun one.
I feel like that's less scary and more like. What is that? What is that genre? Psychological, whatever. Thriller? Question mark? Not really. Yeah. Maybe, sort of.
That one was a very fun one. I totally agree. Even though it did have like a little scary moment, you know?
Yeah, I think the thing crawling made me go, bah! But Twilight Zone moment. Yeah, I don't know. There's like, I feel like, things, like I'm not really like a scary anything person. Like I don't really like scary games and I don't really like scary movies or anything like that. But I think that psychological like purposefully confuse you and like in an upsetting way is like the only kind of genre like adjacent to scary that I will like watch, because
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just interesting. And then afterwards I'm always like, huh? Like I don't know, as long as I can sleep after, I guess, but that's usually my only stipulation for scary media is, will I not be able to sleep?
Yeah, just something that
afterwards.
makes you think a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like Izumi Teeny on twitch.tv that I'm always watching you. Yeah, I'm in your walls. That's true. I would agree with that statement. Hi, Leo. Hello. Immortal Toast. Welcome in. Silent Ghost. Task Forge. Hi. Hello. Yeah, that wasn't so bad. I feel like that was a are they gonna get worse from here? Are they gonna get scarier?
Well, I don't know, because I would say most of the ones I chose I have not read yet. So they could get scared. Maybe they'll get better. Maybe they'll get worse.
Yikes.
There's no guarantee, guys.
Oh, I have an ad break for a minute. So if we want to hang on for just a minute until that's done, and then we can start the next one. I don't know. There's this one. What is that movie? I think it has Justin Timberlake in it. It's about like time and like
In Time. It's called In Time.
Yeah.
And the concept is everyone stops aging at 25, but like you get paid in time. So like you go to work and you don't get money, you like get paid in time, and then everything costs time.
Yeah.
And when you run out of time, then you die.
Yeah. So that shit to me, I know the intention was not for it to be like a scary movie, but that shit to me was scary as fuck. Like, if things that are like media that deals with like your mortality on the line and stuff like that, that shit to me is crazy. I don't know.
In this horrible world,
gotcha?
I don't think gotcha exists in this horrible world that, you know. In this horrific world.
Hi, Stella. Welcome in.
Unfortunately.
All right.
Okay, I did another TV one, actually.
Okay.
I just saw this one. This one is actually a really short story. It's only 5 minutes long.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, guys. This is called The Static Man. And also, I saw Nexi said that I was really good at doing an old man voice, which is true. I basically can only do an old man voice. And that's it.
Perfect for a scary story.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one is called The Static Man. And this one, I think, is a good follow-up because this one is also about a TV, from what I can gather. Okay. I always thought the old TV in my grandmother's
wife, for real. Sorry.
Do you have a real? Yeah, I'm secretly an old man giraffe, guys. Sorry to break it. I'm not a cute anime girl. I'm just an old man giraffe. It's true. This is funny because this also has a grandmother in it.
Oh, awesome. Okay. There's a theme.
There's a theme so far, but don't worry, we're not sticking to the theme after this. I always thought the old TV in my grandmother's attic was broken. It would never receive channels, only emit a hiss of static when you tried turning the dial. But last December, I discovered it wasn't broken after all. The first time I ever laid eyes on him, I figured I was only drunk. My cousins and I had snuck in whiskey up to the attic after the Christmas party, challenging one another to turn the dial on that old TV that didn't work anymore. I recall leaning in too close, my forehead almost on the glass. That's when the static warped. I don't mean the image clarified, I mean the gray-white mist leaned towards me, as if the screen was attempting to breathe me in. And there, within the flicker, was the face of a man. Not clear, not complete, just the suggestion of a man's eyes, wide and black, gazing back. "Do you see that?" I breathed. But when I turned back to my cousins, they were laughing at me, too distracted pouring shots to care. When I turned around again, the man's lips were moving, silent, engulfed by static, but I could have sworn I saw the word, soon. I did not return to the attic until months later, after Grandma died and my mother requested I assist her with cleaning the house. I was alone, the dust and that TV sitting in the dark nook like a grave marker. I said to myself, do not touch it, but as I piled boxes and folded moth-eaten quilts, I continued to glance at it, pounding hard, half expecting the man to materialize again. I should have gone away. I turned it on and said, okay, this person's dumb and deserves to die. Why would you turn it on again, you dumb idiot?
I love when people are like, I had to do it. I had to know. And it's like, did you though? Did you really?
The static leapt into being in an instant, brighter than I could remember, verging on blinding. In a matter of seconds, the same image coalesced. The soft shape of a man pressed against the screen. This time, I didn't even blink. His hand moved, fuzzy but unambiguous, and he touched it against the glass. I have no idea why I did it, but I raised my own hand and mirrored it. The glass was ice cold. And then, God help me, the static broke, just for a heartbeat, long enough to get a look at the face. He had no skin, just muscle and teeth and eyes stretched too wide. His jaw unhinged, and although the TV had no sound, I could hear his voice in my head, buzzing like bees in my skull. Let me out! That night, I dreamed of him. I was again in the attic, but the TV was missing. He was there instead, standing tall and dripping static, as if it were water running off him. With each step, black footprints appeared on the wood. I awoke screaming. I didn't sleep for 3 nights following. Each time I drifted off, I could hear the static, a persistent hiss against my eardrums. On the 4th night, my phone clicked on automatically. No ringing, no apps, but pure static covering the screen, and in the static, weak but clear as glass. Closer. I attempted to remove the TV. I lugged it out to the dumpster at the back of my house, slicing my hands on the jagged edges of the screen as I dropped it in. But by the morning, it was back in the attic, parked in the same spot, dusted to perfection like it had never been moved. That was when I understood it wasn't the television he lived in. It was the static. Any static. I tested it. Radios, old VHS tapes, the snow between channels. He was always there, waiting. And he was getting clearer. 2 weeks ago, I woke up to see static creeping up the walls of my bedroom. Not light, not shadow. Actual static. Like my whole room had turned into a screen. He stepped out. Not fully. His torso still melted into the wall, but his head was free. And his hands. Skinless, wet fingers bending in ways they shouldn't. He reached for me. I froze. Just as his hand brushed my ankle, the static vanished. He was gone. But he left a print, a handshake burned, blackened into my skin. I'm writing this tonight because the mark has spread. It began as a palm print, now it's veins, black and crawling, wriggling up my calf. My skin is parched and cracking. Flakes of static sometimes peel off with me when I scratch, fizzing, before they reach the floor. The worst part? I hear him when the house falls silent, not only in the walls of the television, but in me. In my head, like my skull is a hollowed-out antenna. He says he's nearly there. That static isn't an entrance, it's an infection. And tonight, the downstairs TV came on its own. No one is home but me. I can hear him scrolling through the channels, clicking closer. The walls are already humming. He's coming through. And the very last thing I'll ever say in case anyone ever reads this, wait. Do you hear it too? I thought sharing my story would make a difference, such as perhaps putting it into writing would cure this infection, lock him in words, but that was foolish. If anything, it made him more powerful. The evening after I posted my entry, I dreamed again, but it didn't feel like a dream. I sat at my desk, reading responses saying how creepy but phony my tale was. When the screen dimmed, all the words turned into static, and then the responses altered. Dozens of usernames I didn't know, all typing the same thing. Let him in! The screen vibrated, and the cursor started typing by itself. You're mine! When I awoke, my laptop remained on. The draft of my novel remained open, except someone or something had made changes to it. My words were still intact, but interspersed among them were his, every so often in bold black uppercase. Soon, soon, soon. I erased them, saved the file, rebooted the computer. But when I reopened the document, the words had grown, pages of them, that single word repeated and repeated like the static was typing through me. The infection is more severe now. The veins which began in my leg have burst over my chest, black streaks as if lightning runs beneath the skin. Sometimes they imbue themselves with an ethereal glow, a momentary flash, and when they do, the lights in the room shudder in sympathy. I can't remain in darkness any longer, for that's when he comes nearest. Each time the light goes out or the electricity falters, I hear him take a step nearer to the surface. The static buzz begins low like bugs scurrying in the walls, swells until it sounds like it's shuddering the air asunder, and I watch his hands press against the cracks. Tonight, I tried one thing. If he's spreading from signals, perhaps cutting myself out might be enough to put a stop to it. I took the TV off the plug, smashed my phone, ripped every cable out of the walls, even flipped the breaker so the house was dead quiet. I felt relieved for an instant. Then I remembered Silence is no longer silence because the static remained inside me. I don't know how long I've been sitting in the dark now. My skin feels like it's infested with electricity. Every couple of minutes, my sight fizzles out, and I look through the static rather than my eyes. That's how I know he's nearly done, because when the static gets me, I see him standing right behind me, even clearer than ever, skinless, smiling too wide, and his voice. Oh god, his voice is no longer in my head, it's whispering in my ear. If this is the last thing I type, I want someone to know. The static is not only him, it's a portal, and the more you stare at it, the more you hear, the bigger it gets. I think sharing my tale infected you as well. Wait, do you hear it? That hiss in your speakers? That flicker on your screen? Don't turn around. And that's the end of that story.
Me when I'm a VTuber and I'm typing in a document and it says soon, 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 soon. So many grandmas with cursed TVs. Streamers paid off by Big Grandma. Yeah.
For real!
That's true.
For real. Yes.
I feel like, unfortunately, I think the bulk of the population is really, like, scared of the elderly. Like, I think that that's like a general consensus. Like, people are just terrified of senior citizens, and I don't know what that's about.
You are so right, and it's so sad.
It's like, I think it's just because people don't have enough, like, experience with senior citizens when they're, like, in their formative years. So, like, later in life, it's like they've already developed, like, a discomfort around, like, elderly people, you know? But
oh my gosh, yes.
I don't know, like, my dad was, like, a denturist, so, like, I'm not scared of dentists, and I'm not scared of old people, because I was around that, like, my whole childhood, right? So, like, I don't know, to me, it's, like, very interesting that I remember, like, all throughout my childhood, like, Halloween, whenever it would be, like, you know, trick-or-treating with my friends, like, my friends would be like, oh, like, I don't want to go to that house, like, there's just an old guy living there, and I was like, well, he's probably really nice, you know? Like, I don't know, I was always, like, the old people advocate, but all my friends were always, like, so frightened by elderly people. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. That's so sad.
But it's like when you think about it in movies and stuff too, you know, like there's
that
always
is
like
true.
There's always
There's
like a
actually
weird old woman or like something.
Yes. There's actually a resurgence lately with horror movies where they're making creepy old women like a thing again. Because if you look at Hereditary, there's like the creepy grandma, and then in the Weapons, there's that creepy old woman. And there's just like creepy old women are becoming like a thing again in horror movies, and I'm like, what is going on?
Maybe it's just because of my upbringing, but like I think that children are substantially more scary than old people. Like, and you know when there's stories in movies that involve kids, I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Nah.
Yeah, Weapons also has a lot of kids in it. Freaky kids.
Have a good lurk, Misha. Also, hi, Ems, welcome in. Welcome. That one, I feel like...
yeah, what'd you think?
I think that, like,
not as good for sure.
POV of, like, I'm writing in my journal is, like, always very interesting, like, first person, like, this is my, like, recounting of what's going on or whatever.
Yeah.
But because I, like, don't watch a lot of, like, horror media, I do find it hard to, like, picture these kinds of things that are just, like, first person as opposed to, like, a more in-depth about the area that they're in. Or, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like I find it harder, but...
I feel like an issue with, like, I'm writing in my journal or I'm making a post is, that's, like, such a common formula for these scary stories and creepypastas that at least now, I'm like, okay, now it's just, like, overdone and cheesy.
Yeah.
So that's how I view it.
I think that's fair.
But yeah, a little bit cheesy, a little bit overdone. It's fine, you know, but yeah,
It's
that's kind of how I'm
fine.
feeling. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of children, the next story is kind of a longer one, but it's called My Son Can't Stop Humming the Same Tune, and it's starting to freak me out.
Okay.
So also feel free to interrupt if you like want, by the way.
Okay.
Especially like for the longer stories.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was funny when you guys in chat said like streamers paid off by Big Grandma. I was like fighting for my life not to baha out loud.
No, you should. You just should. It's okay. It's
Do
okay.
that. I will
Okay,
interrupt
well,
your ass. I'm ready.
Teeny was literally just talking about how they are scared of children, and here's a story about a child.
Yippee!
Yippee! Okay. It all started last Monday. I received a call from his basketball coach. My son, Riley, had been acting more strangely than usual. He said my son had seemed to intentionally pop 2 basketballs alone in the locker room. I made my son play for the church league after school, even though I know he would much rather play on his computer or phone. It wasn't like him to get in trouble. When I got to the school gym, the coach told me the basketballs were old and worn, but Riley refused to explain how they popped. I went to talk to my son, and it didn't seem to register right away that I was talking to him. He was glued to his phone screen, rocking back and forth, humming to himself. The 3rd time I yelled his name, he finally looked up at me and smiled. I asked him how he popped the basketballs. He shrugged, and I heard him hum that creepy tune for the first time. I told him to get up. Maybe he was hiding something sharp. At this point, although I was a little weirded out, I grew up with 2 older brothers and knew how much boys like to poke and prod things and blow them up. I told Riley's coach that we would pay for the 2 balls, and it would come out of Riley's own piggy bank. When I scolded him to apologize, Riley let out the longest "sorry" I've ever heard him say, with a sly smile. When we got home, I told him to march up to his room and pull out the $50. $50 for 2 basketballs? I feel like that's crazy. That's insane.
That is crazy.
Is this Canadian dollars?
Man. Hi, son. Hi, Manager Kun. Welcome in.
Welcome in. I told him to march up to his room and pull out the $50 I figured the 2 balls would be to replace. He nodded, and as he climbed up the stairs, I heard him humming that same creepy tune. When he got back down the stairs, I asked him what he was humming. He looked at me with genuine confusion. He told me he hadn't been humming anything. I still regret not pushing for an answer then, but I rolled my eyes and let him stomp back upstairs.
Bro,
Riley spent the rest of the night.
possessed.
For sure. Like, what is going on, you know? One basketball is $30? This is a joke, right?
I feel
Basketball.
like that
I'm
might
looking
be
this up.
real, actually.
Basketball cost.
Basketball.
Okay, at Walmart,
cost.
it is $15 at Walmart, and you can buy a basketball at Five Below for $5.
Like a good basketball, though. Like a good quality basketball.
I will say a good quality basketball. I'm seeing one for $50.
Yeah.
$50. I would buy the $15 Walmart basketball and call it a day. Okay. That's what 15. Okay, because I feel like $15 for a basketball, that's pretty fair. And also they literally said
$5 basketball or are you $50 basketball?
And they said literally in the story that the 2 basketballs that he popped were like super old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like,
doing a hustle, get the weird kid to pop the basketballs, go to the parent and go, yeah, basketballs are $25 each.
Okay, wait, the $5 basketball is from Spalding, and isn't Spalding like actually like a pretty respectable company for basketballs?
I don't know.
Who I feel like they are. But anyway.
I don't think I've ever played a sport in my life.
Wait, makes it Spalding is like dirt tier. Okay, that's fair. I mean, it's $5, you know?
Team doesn't do sport. Sorry, guys.
Okay, Riley spent the rest of that night in his room. I honestly forget what I was watching down in the living room, but when I finally called it a night at 11 o'clock, I remember knocking on Riley's door, telling him it's time for bed. Although I can't be certain, looking back at everything that's happened, I swear I could hear that same creepy, childlike tune. The tune reminded me of some of those tunes from SpongeBob when I was a kid. Like, remember that episode with the sea bear? When SpongeBob is describing what not to do to Squidward, the background tune is what Riley has been humming. I just looked it up. It's called House of Horror from SpongeBob. But Riley's tune was not quite that. Riley's was more high-pitched, more drawn out, unsettling, and it seemed to just get worse as the week went on. I don't remember ever seeing Riley watch any of the old SpongeBob seasons, but it's always possible he watched them at his dad's house on the weekends. Yeah, we got SpongeBob references, guys. We got a SpongeBob reference here. Tuesday was a late day for me at work. Linda, one of Riley's friends, Will's mom. Oh, wait, okay. Linda, one of Riley's friends, Will's mom, picked him up every Tuesday so Riley and Will could hang out for 2 hours while I rushed back to our neighborhood after work. When I got to Linda's house, Linda pulled me aside to the living room. She told me Riley had spent the entire time in the bathroom. After an hour, Will had come to grab her because he was getting mad that Riley wouldn't come out. I brought my tone to a whisper, wondering if maybe Riley might have had an accident and didn't want Will to see it. Linda seemed to nod in agreement, but told me that Will had said that Riley was watching it on his phone and wouldn't share. I felt the color drain from my face. Again, Riley was 12 years old, and also controversial, but maybe a 12-year-old should not have a phone that can watch videos.
I agree.
That's all I'm saying.
I am of the opinion that kids should go outside and make grass soup and not be on technology. you know?
Okay, at 12, you're getting a jitterbug phone, okay?
Like, I think when I was around that age, I think I had a phone so that I could make sure that I was, like, in touch with my family, but it was, like, ladybug phone with 3 buttons that had pre-programmed numbers.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So, 12 years old and having a phone that can watch a video, I feel this is questionable parenting, guys. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Leapfrog if you're going to give your kids technology? Or I know. Well, people know that all the iPad kids are like the worst behaved kids in the world now, you know? I had a
like,
phone,
teachers
but
are
I'm still on my Razor
it.
scooter late into the night. Nexie out on Razor scooter at wee hours of the night.
I love that. I do.
I love this imagery.
I do really love that.
That's awesome.
Okay. Sorry, where was I? I was criticizing the parenting.
Staring at it on his phone.
Oh yes, okay. The kid is staring at it, whatever it is. I felt the color drain from my face. Again, Riley was 12 years old, but the idea of him doing that in someone else's house is appalling. Oh wait, so he thinks it's porn.
Oh.
Like the
Awesome.
parent, right? He's like, oh my god, why is my kid doing this at someone else's house? Okay. I began to apologize, but Linda called Will over, who was watching something on his phone on the living room couch. Okay, also Will watching something on his phone. I'm sorry. These parents suck. Okay. Linda asked Will about it. It's nothing, just, Will paused. Is it? I cleared my throat out of sheer embarrassment. Linda stared me down like I was about to cross some unspoken boundary. She grabbed at my arm, a silent but clear command to stop. Willie, honey, is it a... Linda's voice dropped to a whisper. Naughty video. Did you hear that, by the way? I just wanted to make sure that you could hear what I said. Will crinkled his nose. Ew, no, gross, Mom! I let out a sigh of relief. What is it then, honey? Linda pushed further. Will seemed to hesitate. He looked back at me and Linda and took a glance up the second-story balcony. His mouth fell open as the 3 of us followed Riley's descent from the second story. Will got up and seemed to hide behind his mom, farthest away from Riley. Riley smiled, waved at Will, and walked out the front door. Linda looked at me, puzzled. Although I was equally confused, I gave a half-honest smile, apologized, and hustled out of their house. When I got outside, Riley was already sitting in the passenger seat, looking straight ahead. I must have accidentally left the car unlocked. I tried my best to get an answer out of Riley. Each question about it or the bathroom or even trying to return to the basketball incident from yesterday resulted in a sarcastic chuckle or an indifferent snort. When we pulled up into the house, my exhaustion was at an all-time high. I felt Riley's eyes face me, and for a brief moment, I felt my son's humanity return. Sorry, Mom, he mumbled before he slowly rocked his head back and forth, humming the tune from yesterday. Riley grabbed his backpack and left me alone in the car. I pondered calling Riley's dad, but I'd rather not hear a lecture from Kyle, Riley's dad, who already disapproved of my parenting style. I instead found my older brother Ian's name on my contact list and told him about the 2-day events. Ian let me finish my rant before he told me it sounded like Riley was going through a weird moment in his puberty, and it's probably best to just leave him alone. As I started to push back a little bit, I felt my brother's voice get more assertive than usual, telling me it's best to just leave it alone. Ian hung up on me, something completely out of the ordinary for him. I sat in a huff for a minute before resolving to go about my day. I grabbed my work bag and walked into the house. Riley sat on the couch, staring down at his phone. When I walked in, he seemed to quickly do something on it. What are you watching? I inquired, grabbing for his phone before he could answer. He looked up at me. Nothing. My phone's dead. His speaking style was too polished, too short. This wasn't my Riley. I snatched his phone from his hands and tried to press the power button. Sure enough, the phone lit up with no battery signal. I handed Riley his phone back into feed. He got up and started for the stairs. Okay, honestly, I'd just take the phone away. I'd be like, you little freak, you don't get a phone anymore.
Yeah, so true. I think that would be the right move. I wonder how many of these, like, kinds of stories would just end if the parents were better. You know?
I know. I mean, I guess we don't know what the mystery is yet, right? So maybe that wouldn't do anything, but as of right now, I don't know.
He's talking to his AI grok girlfriend, but is embarrassed.
That is
So
pretty embarrassing.
true.
So,
Talking,
Yeah.
whatever happened to talking to strangers on WhatsApp when you were 12?
oh my God. I used to talk to strangers on, do you guys remember when YouTube had chat rooms?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would talk to people in that.
That's
Like,
crazy.
really young. Isn't that crazy?
That's so funny.
Yeah, throwback. Sure enough, he started humming again, drawn out, ominous. Stop, I cried out. Riley, please. Please stop humming whatever that is. I don't like it. Riley stopped. He slowly turned towards me and seemed to just blink in place. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something and quickly closed it. He did this 3 more times before he took his first confident step backwards. His mouth was now ajar. His eyes still seemed to study me as if I was prey. He took another step back and then another. He watched me, stepping backwards upstairs until he got to the top. He slammed his door shut. Honestly, I would be like so mad. I'd be like, you do not disrespect me. You know, because I feel like this is like really
fuck
weird.
ass kid. I don't like it, man.
I'm like, I'm dropping your ass off at the orphanage, okay?
I was
I
in the
climbed the
worst
stairs.
chat rooms imaginable. It was so lawless back then. So real. Yeah,
That is-
unfortunately
yeah.
at that time, the chat rooms, quote unquote, that I was in was just like the Homestuck, MS Parp RP website. So funny.
was not really on the internet growing up, so like I have never used like so many sites that people were like have used. Or like I was not into like any of the stuff that people like were really using because I was just like not online.
Yeah,
At
your
all.
friends didn't bully you to go on Omegle when you were like 13.
I did go on Omegle a little bit, but really I just like any of like the forum stuff. I've like never been on a forum or anything like that. I never did like any of that stuff. So I mean, I feel like there's so much stuff about like the internet that I just did not do and do not know about, and it's just like really
At
funny.
my security
look back
job,
on.
not doing it because Dreamy and Horse are live, and also because I do not care for the lives of my patrons. Please pay attention to your job. Please.
That
I'm
is
asking
so
so
funny, though.
nicely. Oh my goodness.
That is so funny.
I remember the old days, Yahoo chat rooms at its height in the early 2000s. I was on like MSN Messenger, and like then when Facebook got really big, just like when Facebook started introducing the Facebook chat. But that's just like mostly with people like I don't think that that's really like strangers on the internet. I think that's a different experience than if you're on like a forum.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess I used to talk to people when I played World of Warcraft when I was like 13.
Oh, okay, that's fun. I played RuneScape when it was in browser, and I played just a little bit, and I did not talk to anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, sorry. Let me see.
I climbed up the stairs, slammed the door. Yeah.
The creepy kid. I climbed up the steps, retreated to my own room, and on the way, waited in front of Riley's door for any out-of-the-ordinary sounds, but heard complete silence instead. I collapsed at the foot of the bed, head in my hands, begging, no, praying, for an answer to this weirdness. I tried to think of my own family history. I know my grandpa had dementia before he died, but there weren't any clear examples of mental illness in my family. I decided then and there that I would call Kyle, Riley's dad, if his creepy antics kept up the next day. It would be good to warn him too, as he would take Riley for the weekend anyway, that Friday. Wednesday morning school drop-off was a silent affair. Have a good day, sweetie. I smiled at him, eager for an affirmation as we pulled up to the entrance. Riley grabbed his backpack from the back seat, took a deep breath, and left me without a word. I watched him march up to the school. His head perfectly straight, his posture would make a drill sergeant blush. That Wednesday afternoon, I saw the school's caller ID pop up on my phone. I tried to center myself, expecting the worst. Hello? Hello, I'm Mrs. Rhonda. Is this Riley's mother? Yes, it is. I felt my voice falter. Riley had done something. I could feel it. Is he okay? Mrs. Rhonda paused. He's okay. He's here in the office. I cursed under my breath. Riley's antics had already caused me embarrassment with his basketball coach and friend's mom. My mind was racing through the possibilities of suspensions or even worse. Mrs. Rhonda continued. Has your son been acting up recently? Could it be worse than I imagined? A fight? Destruction of school property? I swallowed my pride. Yes, Mrs. Rhonda, he's been acting, differently since Monday. Okay. Oh, wait, I read ahead and this is actually so weird. Okay. I see. Well, there was I don't even know how to read. Okay, I'm sorry. I see. Well, there was an incident during recess today. Your son and a group of 10, maybe 12 boys took over the girls' bathroom, if you will. What? I had already started corralling my purse and mouthed to my boss I had to go. As I reached my car, Mrs. Rhonda continued. They seemed to hiss at incoming girls. Your son Riley was making a game of washing the boys' feet. That's what I read ahead and I was like, what the fuck is happening? Okay. What? As I swerved out of the parking lot, her words, however confusing they were, raced in my mind. Some of the boys, Mrs. Rhonda waited, some of the boys screamed as he did it. The shudder ran down my spine. My mind went blank. A swerve. Barely avoided the SUV. Are you okay? Mrs. Rhonda inquired. I'm fine, I choked out. I'll be there soon. With that, I hung up. When I got to the school, Mrs. Rhonda was wiping away tears. What the frick is happening? Okay. I saw Riley sitting, swaying back and forth through the office window, some of his friends sitting motionless around him. I spotted Will 2 boys down as Mrs. Rhonda buzzed me in. I went to apologize. But, Mrs. Rhonda interrupted me before I could start. Have you told Riley about my son James before? I looked at Mrs. Rhonda with confusion. Your son? Yes, she said in between sniffles, her voice dropping to a breathless whisper, the one who... She held back a flood of tears. The one who died. I instinctively pulled back in shock. Riley asked me... Mrs. Rhonda blew her nose, pushing away a tear. Riley asked me if we still had the blue Subaru that James was driving. I felt my breath stop and start. The lights seemed to get brighter and dimmer all at once. I felt my chest start to hurt and it became increasingly impossible to gather a breath. James was driving the blue Subaru when he went off the road 10 years ago. Mrs. Rhonda examined me closely, seemingly trying to sniff out some knowledge of the incident I hadn't revealed. Riley told me that James would want us to drive it still. The little bits of James would remind us of him. The room began to spin. I looked over at the bench that held Riley. He looked over at me and grinned, still rocking back and forth. Okay, I see there's an ad break, so maybe I should, like, pause for now.
Okay. Is this creepypasta or foot fetish fanfic?
Maybe we'll get an answer for that later, because right now I don't know, guys.
I feel like some
Gritty.
scary story writers are like, yeah, let's just throw in this weird thing so that the reader goes, huh?
I'm definitely like, huh? Like, I read ahead before I read it out loud, and I was like, what? Literally just me like, oh, okay. Weird.
I took over a boys' bathroom once when I was in high school.
How'd you take it over?
It was unintentional, but I had like a crazy spontaneous nosebleed. And I walked into like the nearest bathroom so that I could deal with it. And there was no one else in there, and it was a men's bathroom. And I do remember one of the boys coming into the washroom and being like, this is the men's room. And I was like, okay, I'm bleeding in the sink. And he was like, okay. And then he turned around and he left. And then I guess he just like stood outside the door until I was done. And anytime anyone came by, I was like, there's a girl in there. So
that's so goofy. I would also be like, shut up, I'm bleeding.
Yeah.
I would say that too.
I was like, I don't care.
You're real for that. You're real for that.
Yeah.
I get it. So, yeah, that's so funny.
Aura, you think so?
I think so. I mean, like, what are you supposed to do, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Yeah. This is funny.
So me, I'd also be like, what about it? I can't do anything about this.
They basically added it in to make sure you're still paying attention. Yeah, at any point in the story, if your eyes glazed over while reading, you would read feet and you would go, ah?
You'd be like, oh, what's going on with this?
What are we talking about?
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's continue. I think it's probably the ad's probably over. I didn't recognize my child for the first time in my life. I tried my best to apologize to Mrs. Rhonda before I went to grab Riley. As we left, I leaned in and whispered to Mrs. Rhonda that Riley would be out the rest of the week. When we got to the car, I told Riley to sit in the back seat. I couldn't be near him at the moment. As we drove, I kept catching Riley staring me down in the rearview window, smiling and sniggering to himself as we came up to a stoplight near our house. And he could see me staring back at him. Riley opened his mouth, unnaturally long, and his humming emanated from the black hole of his mouth. When we got back to the house, Riley threw his bag down on the floor and locked himself in the downstairs bathroom before I could stop him. I heard him turn on the water, but I couldn't hear him turn it off. I could hear him humming his tune, even over the water. No matter where I was in the house, it just seemed to be a few feet away. I retreated to the front lawn, climbing back into the car and pressing my ex-husband's contact on my phone. When he finally picked up on the fourth ring, I was hopeless in stopping the stream of tears. Kyle seemed annoyed as I began to recount the basketball story, giving side remarks or downplaying the terror of it all. As I went deeper, Kyle fell silent. I just don't know what's happening to him, I said between sobs. I'm scared. I'm scared for him. I could barely compute this feeling at the time, but it's only become more real the longer this terror has dragged on. I'm scared of him. I waited for his response. 10 seconds melted into 30 seconds when Kyle finally said something. This all had a valid explanation. It's got... What are you talking about? My words poured out before I could stop them. Did you tell him about Mrs. Rhonda and James? I didn't even know about that. Kyle paused again. I might have. I must have. Kyle tried to reassure me. Might have come up when I talked to him about drunk driving. I felt my breath begin to quicken again. It's fucked up to bring it up, but boys like to bring up the taboo, Kyle continued. You really think it is not some adult videos? I considered his theory. Will, Riley's friend told me and his mom it wasn't, I reiterated. Of course the little fucker would say it wasn't porn, Kyle sarcastically snorted. Look, he probably just found some article out that James's kid and wanted to freak people out. On that James kid and wanted to freak people out. But the humming, Kyle, the feet thing, it's not natural. Something's really wrong with him. Maybe he, My words stumbled over one another. A voice dropped an octave as I hesitated at my next thought. Maybe we look into therapy options or an exorcism, I whispered. Kyle took a long breath. He's not going to goddamn therapy.
Hi, Pinky.
That is, yeah, an exorcism. He's not going to goddamn therapy, and you're joking about that religious crap. Look, I'm stuck here in Yuma for another day, but first thing Friday morning, I'll come grab him. Might just need to change of scenery, and if he's not right when I drop him off Sunday, we can look into other options. I nodded to myself. Okay, I'm going to watch him tomorrow, Kyle. Maybe he'll be okay just around me. We ended our call. My hand found the door handle, but my trembling fingers refused to push it further. After a few minutes of silence, I finally exited my car and tiptoed up to the front door. As I reached for my keys, the front door slowly swung open and I could hear the slight hum from inside the house. Riley? I called out, taking a tender step forward into the house. I looked up the stairs, expecting to see his figure loitering over me, but found the space empty. I heard his devilish humming again. It surrounded me still. I couldn't place the source. Riley, I yelled out, circling the first level. Riley, come out now. I'm not playing. My voice fluttered in the air. My head felt fuzzy. My sinuses pushed against my eyes, while I could hear the blood rushing in my arms. There's like a little humming bit, but obviously I don't know what the tune is, guys. The humming got louder as I neared the living room. Riley, you're starting to scare me, I cried out of desperation. My voice, a shadow of its past self, died within the confines of the living room. Not daring to venture further, I collapsed in despair onto the couch. I felt a tear begin to well up in my right eye. I tried to push it away with my left pointer finger. Chalky white smeared just below my eye, a fingertip taste. Salt. I ever so slightly made out the sounds of snickering to the left of the couch. I hesitated for a half second before I slid my body to the side of the kitchen and peeked down. Riley was on his knees, seeming to laugh to himself, guarding his mouth with his hand. He looked up at me, his eyes seeming to stare right through me. He returned his gaze to the floor and restarted his snickering. The snickering was unnatural, forced, devoid of joy. My hand reached out and grabbed his back. Riley immediately went quiet. He looked over at my hand, and I felt his eyes follow my arm up to my torso before staring back at me with so much disdain you would have thought I had just spit on him. Riley? I mumbled out. His face went neutral. He blinked twice before slowly rotating his head back until his skull found the back of his neck. I looked up at the ceiling, desperate to see something, anything, to explain, what was going on with my son. My whole body jolted when that same demonic humming radiated out of Riley. My hands found the sides of my head, right hand migrating south to clasp the rosary I had started to keep in my pocket. It was gone. Misplaced or worse. I mustered the last of my strength. Riley, go to your room, I shouted out, desperately trying to reclaim control of the house. Riley rose to his feet and looked down at me. I felt my lip tremble as I rose to my feet. Riley and I were the same height, but in that moment, I felt like a mouse. Riley's face slowly contorted into a smile. I could hear his lips cracking as his face twitching into place. He walked towards the staircase and silently started climbing to the top. I followed closely behind. Halfway up the stairs, Riley stopped before breaking into a dead sprint for the last 6 steps, throwing open his door. I was startled but tried my best to follow close behind. When I got to his open door, Riley was perched in a near perfect 90-degree angle staring straight ahead. His gaze was locked on his closed closet door as he began to hum his creepy tune again. My body felt limp, like my energy had been sucked out. I took a timid step back from his door, his humming still ringing in my ears. Something was calling out to me, but I still don't understand. I had to be near his bedroom, near my son, near the humming. I plopped down on the floor next to his doorframe. It was only 6. The hallway still basked in light from outside. By 9, the sun had faded, and it was dark. My only companion was the non-stop humming. The sun soon emerged. I looked down at my phone. The time had already bled into 9 a.m. on Thursday when I tucked my head into Riley's room. He sat completely rigid. I still trained directly in front of him, humming that same wicked tune. The early morning soon ate into the afternoon. I sat motionless, transfixed on Riley's humming, waiting for a hint of normality. A twinge of difference, just a taste of the humanity my son was now missing. Nothing, just the humming, an elixir of evil and turmoil. The daylight soon slid into darkness, and my hum-induced trance was broken by a sudden thud at the front door. My legs trembled and felt weak as I got off the floor. The hallway around me covered in a slight haze. I had to blink away. I took cautious steps down the stairs, opening up the front door to see Kyle standing before me, wearing a yellow vest. I've been calling all day. Are you okay? Kyle asked, his voice a mix of anger and genuine concern. I looked down at my phone, realizing now that I had somehow missed 16 phone calls from Kyle. Kyle seemed to study me more thoroughly. That's a lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
I felt his eyes glaze over the eye bag that must have been present, and him trying desperately to find life in the husk of a former wife who stood before him. I should have called for a wellness check. What's wrong? I nodded my head back and forth. The sunlight burned my eyes. Riley. My mind went blank. What about him? Is he still acting funny? Kyle asked, placing his hand on the doorframe before flashing a smile behind me. Ah, Riley! I turned to look back to see Riley with his head down. Riley pushed against me, holding his usual weekend bag. Riley, everything okay? Kyle asked. Riley stopped in front of his dad. His eyes started at his feet before slowly trickling up to his torso, then his head. Riley stood there motionless, just staring at his father. Kyle looked at me with shock at first, then quickly shifted into something dripping with terror. Riley then started a low hum before he kept walking towards the truck and climbed into Kyle's Ford F-150. What's wrong with him? Kyle asked with gritted teeth. His face was ghostly white. I looked at him with sincerity. I felt my hand try to find his shoulder, but missed badly, nearly falling forward until Kyle caught me. Are you okay? Kyle's concern was no longer shrouded in his usual nihilist disdain towards me. For the first time since our divorce, it felt like Kyle truly cared about me.
Sorry, but the idea of you being like, there's something fucking wrong, and then a man being like, surely not, and then coming to see that there is something wrong and being like, hey, what's wrong, is so fucking infuriating, dude.
I know. I mean, he just seems like an asshole to begin with, you know?
Yeah, so. I don't know. I feel like that enough in itself is like a horror story. like the real part of the horror story, literally, for real. Like, can you imagine?
It's true.
Can you imagine being like, there's something wrong with my kid, and then your ex-husband is like, I think you're crazy. Like,
I know. I'd be so mad. I'd be freaking pissed.
That shit's crazy.
It is pretty crazy. I felt the words, no, I'm not fine. Something is wrong with me, trying to bubble up in my throat, but my eyes found Riley in the truck passenger seat, and my head slowly shook yes. Kyle placed me back on my feet. If things get more fucking weird, I'll let you know. I could see his arms trembling. He looked over his shoulder at Riley in his truck. Honey, I'll call you if things get worse. Riley's not okay. We'll call the therapist, the police, whatever. Are you sure you're okay? As if I were a marionette puppet, I felt my head slowly nod yes. His truck pulled out of the driveway. Riley's eyes followed me as the two disappeared from view. All at once, I felt my legs start to buckle. The world started spinning as I inched my way back into the house. I took a few feeble steps towards the stairs when everything went black. I had passed out on Friday morning. My senses returned to me on Saturday afternoon. The last 2 days of no sleep had come crashing down all at once, putting me in an impossible 24-hour coma. As I peeled myself off the wooden floor, left cheek wet with my own saliva, it took only half a second to remember that I hadn't eaten or drunk in 3 days. I sprinted to the kitchen, bouncing off a living room wall on the way, and almost went headfirst into the refrigerator. After throwing leftover chicken into the microwave and drinking approximately a gallon's worth of sink water, I tried to plan out my next move. My son was unwell, that was clear, and any further denial would do him or me no good. I reached for my phone. Will was the only boy I recognized in the office with Riley that day. Had he looked okay? Honestly, I was so transfixed on Riley and what Mrs. Rhonda told me I hadn't noticed. I dialed for Linda, Will's mom. It rang twice before abruptly hanging up. I dialed for her again. The same unfortunate result. I started to pace, my fingernails finding the inside of my teeth. A third time. No answer. I hit the message icon instead. Linda, are you and Will okay? Green text. I looked down in confusion. I dialed her again. Immediate voicemail. Linda, please pick up. I'm worried about you and Will. My mind was soon racing with theories. Will, had he done something to Linda? Does that mean that Riley would do something to... I dialed Kyle immediately. Come on, pick up Kyle, I muttered to myself. Nothing. Again, nothing. I clicked the message button, hoping for a better result than Linda. The 3 dots notifying me that Kyle was typing appeared on the left side of my screen. I let my finger hover over the keyboard, anxiously awaiting Kyle's response. The dots lingered, lost in mid-sentence before disappearing. Never mind, I started my message. Kyle, are you and Riley okay? I've been out for a day. I'm scared. My phone buzzed to life. Linda was calling. I gathered my breath before hitting answer. Hello? I yanked the phone away from my ear. The blood-curdling scream erupted from the phone speaker. Linda, I screamed into the phone, already dissolving to a broken mound of tears, terror, and confusion. Linda, are you okay? She was cut off mid-scream. Linda? I was wrestling with my composure. And then it's like the hum again, guys. It's a but I don't know what tune is it.
Your Discord, like, I could tell that you were screaming, but it, like, tried to noise suppress it. It's so funny.
Oh my god. I'm sure that sounded great, guys, over the call.
It was awesome, actually. Hi, Shizu, welcome in.
I let the phone fall from my ear. The same humming Riley had been repeating all week echoed out of the phone. This wasn't real. It can't be. The humming grew louder and louder. End call. The call was gone, but the humming still surrounded me. I found Kyle's name again on my phone and ran to the front door. Kyle lived about 20 minutes away. I'd call the police on the way and we would solve it this now. I grabbed for my keys and I stumbled out the door when I saw it. A phone was buzzing on the front mat with my name on the screen. My trembling hand reached down to grab the phone. The gleaming picture of an 8-year-old Riley and Kyle at a basketball game confirmed the worst. The phone was Kyle's. And then it's the hum again. The humming grew louder. I twisted around and ran up the stairs, reaching my bedroom, locking the door behind me. That's where I am now. I've tried to call 911 6 times, but each time all it responds with is that same damn creepy humming. Does anyone know what I can do? I don't have a weapon, and the humming seems to be right up against the door now. I can make out a little mouth in the door gap by the floor, a gap torturing me with that same spine-chilling humming. The tongue that comes out of it, it's long, too long for a human. I think it's Riley, and I don't think he's here to comfort his mother. End of story.
I think that there should be... If there was no children ever, then they wouldn't get possessed and scary. Send tweet.
Well, that's true. That's true. I feel like obviously, like a part of something being scary is like the mystery, right? But for me, I'm kind of like, I kind of want to know what the frick is happening.
Yeah, like it would be nice if it continued so that you would know like what the. But I feel like the end of it, if it were like a real horror film or whatever, you still wouldn't know because it would end in death and dying, and there would still be no answers. You know what I mean? Like.
Yes.
Yeah. Because if it's from the perspective of the victim, quote unquote, I don't think you would ever know.
That is true.
So
that is true.
I should abolish children. Exactly. If the children don't exist, then they can't get scary.
I just kind of wish there was more to it, you know? I just kind of wish we knew a little bit more. Just a little bit. Like, what was it? I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. I feel like it's such like an ongoing theme now of like technology making people scary, making people crazy, making people, you know what I mean? Like technology is like,
yes.
I feel like it's such a driving force in media now, which is also kind of scary and considering like how much we use it all the time, you know? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I do feel like it ended before the real explanation. I agree. I just like wish they gave us, I'm not saying that they have to tell us exactly what's going on, but just a little more would be nice.
It's the suspense. Bum, bum,
and you know what? This does kind of relate to the next story. Since we're not going for long, this will probably be the last story. But okay. I will say, this is from the r/no sleep subreddit, and it won the scariest story of 2022.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here is the name of the story. My wife has been peeking at me from around corners and behind furniture. It's gone from weird to terrifying.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. I love this one too, Papa John. I'm glad you know it. Okay. My wife, Lynn, and I have been together for 6 years and married for 11 months. Our entire history together has been very normal, and never once have I noticed any weird behaviors or red flags. I can't stress enough how out of character this whole thing is for her. Lynn is very kind, intelligent, and thoughtful. She's always been the no-nonsense type of person. Being childish or trying to scare me is not something she'd normally do. She doesn't even like watching horror movies. When we first started dating, she agreed to watch The Shining with me because she knew how much I loved horror. She was so scared that she didn't even make it through half the movie before we had to turn it off. She isn't into anything creepy and has never been into pranks. It's just not her cup of tea, and that's fine. But that's what was so strange about this. It's just so unlike her. I should also add that she never had any mental health issues, and as far as I'm aware, it doesn't run in her family. I know some people are able to hide their mental health problems, but in the 6 years we've been together, I think I'd have seen some sort of sign. 2 months ago, I was in the kitchen making myself some coffee before work. I was running a bit late that morning and knew I wouldn't be able to make it to Dunkin' Donuts for my usual morning fix. I took a sip of my coffee as I hurried down the hall towards the front door, when I happened to notice Lynn peeking at me from around the corner ahead of me. I could only see her eyes and a strand of her long dark hair hanging against the wall.
Sorry, next you saying Dunkin' mention is really funny. We love that Dunkin' Donuts guy.
We do have a Dunkin' mention. Okay, I took a sip of my coffee as I hurried down the hall towards the front door, when I happened to notice Lynn peeking at me from around the corner ahead of me. I could only see her eyes and a strand of her long dark hair hanging against the wall. The rest of her body was concealed behind the corner. I nearly spilled my coffee when I saw her. I did burn the shit out of my lips. "Jeez, Lynn," I said, wiping a few drops of coffee from my pants. "You scared the shit out of me." She immediately popped out of view, like a little kid that had been caught. I heard her scurry off towards the living room, and by the time I got to the front door, she was out of sight. It was really weird and just totally out of character for her, like I said, but I also found it kind of funny that she was being more playful and a little less serious. I shouted that I loved her and called her a weirdo. As I shut the door behind me, I heard her laughing. Her behavior was a bit odd, but it certainly wasn't something to call a priest over. I forgot about it by lunch, and by the time I got home, she was her normal self. I didn't bring it up, and neither did she, and life went on. The next incident happened 3 days later. It was around 2 a.m. and I had woken up to get a drink. I was standing at the kitchen island, a jug of OJ in hand, when I felt a strong feeling that I was being watched. For whatever reason, I looked down at the floor and saw my wife's smiling face staring back. She was peeking at me from the other side of the island, staring up at me with wide, unblinking eyes and grinning like the Cheshire Cat.
Ah!
I screamed, I'll admit it, not out of irritation, but fear.
Yeah,
For
that's
some
scary.
reason, that's freaking scary, I agree. For some reason, at that moment, I was scared. At the sound of my scream, Lynn scuttled backwards out of my view, her hands and feet smacking the tile floor as she hurried out of the kitchen on all fours. I didn't run after her or even yell after her. I just stood there, frozen in shock, wondering what the fuck had possessed her to do that. It took me a little longer than I'd like to admit to go back upstairs, but eventually, I did. When I got to our bedroom, Lynn was lying on her side, asleep, or at least pretending to be. I stood there for a while, watching her breathing to be sure she was really asleep. I had the feeling she might jump out at me the moment I got into bed, but she didn't. I climbed into bed and she didn't even move. Her breathing was soft and deep, and I was starting to wonder if I dreamt the whole thing. The next morning, I waited for her to come down for coffee. After handing her a mug and kissing her cheek, I decided to ask her about it. What was that about last night? What was that about last night? I asked, keeping my tone light so I didn't offend or embarrass her. She frowned over her cup of coffee, shaking her head like she had no clue what I was referring to. You were peeking at me again, from over there, I said, pointing to the spot on the floor by the kitchen island. She followed my gaze, and when she looked back at me, she burst out laughing. She laughed so hard that I couldn't help but join her. You creep me the fuck out sometimes, you know that? I said, and she giggled and set her cup on the counter and wrapped her arms around my neck. You creep me out all the time, so I guess we're even, she teased. We said our goodbyes and left for work. As I drove, I kept thinking about how creepy I'd been seeing her grinning at me from behind the island like that. The sounds her hands made on the floor as she crawled away. I told myself she was just trying to be silly, just trying to join me in my love of all things horror. It's not like I was afraid of her, but it still didn't sit right with me. I started seeing her peeking at me more and more often. Sometimes she'd be peeking out from behind the couch or living room curtains. Once she managed to get inside her grandmother's old trunk that sits at the foot of our bed. I might not have even known she was there at all had the trunk's old hinges not given her away. She'd had the lid popped propped up just enough so that only half of her face peeked through. She'd been grinning like an excited toddler. It was unnerving. I didn't even know what to say to her. All I could do was stare. When I finally found my voice, I asked her why on earth she was doing this. She didn't answer, but she had slowly closed the lid, shutting herself inside the trunk. I just walked away, feeling disturbed. Okay, wait, hold on. I need to blow my nose for a second.
Yeah. Ooh, scary. Also, hi to anybody who's coming in a bit later. We're reading. I'm live horse reaction to Dreamy reading scary stories. Enjoy your lurk. Enjoy your lurk.
Okay. I didn't understand why she was doing it, but clearly it made her happy. I just hoped she would tire of this game quickly. Lynn didn't peek at me for the next 2 weeks. I started to think that she was done with her weird prank, and I was relieved. We were watching a show on Netflix one night, and I jokingly said that I hadn't seen her peeking at me lately, and that she must have given up on her spy game. She looked up at me with a small smile and said, "Maybe I've just gotten better at it." I didn't say anything, but I wondered whether or not she was joking. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said. Was she still peeking at me when I wasn't looking and I just hadn't noticed? And if so, what the hell was she getting out of this? I started to feel paranoid, constantly checking whether she was watching from around the corner or behind a door. I was jumpy whenever I was home and she wasn't in full view of me. I felt stupid and a little crazy. But after a few weeks without another incident, I began to relax. I stopped checking behind furniture and walls and told myself it was just a bad memory. Then a few days ago, things got so much worse.
Uh-oh.
Lynn left to go to her friends, and I lounged on the couch and played a couple games on
Sorry.
my laptop.
Dandy just got home, and I heard the sound of the key go into the lock, and it made me jump.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I was like, I don't think I'm that scared, and then I heard a single noise, and was like,
And then you were like, oh god. But you know what would be so crazy is if Dandy was peeking at you.
I would have shit myself. I'm not kidding. Okay.
I should have coordinated with Dandy better. Actually, I should have been like, Dandy, when you come home, can you peek at Teeny through the door?
That would have stressed me out so bad. Okay.
That would be like literally so horrifying, honestly. So I'd be like, oh my god, okay.
Evil.
Okay. Lynn left to go to her friends, and I lounged on the couch and played a couple games on my laptop. Around 9 p.m., I hopped in the shower, and as I was washing the soap from my hair, I felt that awful feeling that I was being watched. I slowly opened my eyes and almost had a fucking heart attack. Lynn was peeking from behind the shower curtain. Her entire head stretched into the shower, leaving just her body outside. Her long dark hair hung against the curtain, the ends dripping with water. Her mouth hung open in a terrible grin, eyes wide and red as if she hadn't blinked in a while. I screamed and jumped back against the wall. She didn't move, nor did her smile waver. Her makeup ran down her cheeks in 2 black streaks. She looked giddy and completely deranged. I was fucking terrified. We stood like that for a few moments, neither of us saying a word. Finally, after what felt like forever, she slowly pulled her head back out of the shower, and I watched her blurry figure through the curtain as she moved backwards towards the bathroom door. A second later, the bathroom door slammed shut, hard enough to rattle the mirror. I screamed again and jumped out of the shower to lock the door. I stayed inside the bathroom for over an hour. Maybe I overreacted to some of you, but joke or not, I wasn't going to put up with the crazy shit anymore.
Yeah,
that's what I kept telling myself. Yeah, it's terrifying. I agree. Honestly, if I had a partner that did this, I would just kill him. I'd be like, "Uh-uh. You're dead now.
I've had enough."
Yep. That's what I kept telling myself as I paced in my bathroom, stopping to listen to the door every few minutes. Suddenly, I heard a muffled sound, and I pressed my ear against the bathroom door, straining to listen. I couldn't hear anything, but I envisioned Lynn standing on the other side of the door, giggling at her joke. I felt a surge of anger. I was beyond pissed at being made to feel scared in my own house, and made to hide in the bathroom for an hour. All for what? Some joke? If it was a joke, it was an awful one. Yeah. What the fuck, Lynn? I snapped. This shit's getting really fucking annoying. I waited for her to apologize or to call me a jerk, but instead I heard a faint moan. So quiet, I wondered if I heard it at all, and then complete silence. Lynn? I called out, not able to even hide the shakiness in my voice. I got no response. Just my own heavy breathing. I swear to God, just fucking stop it, I yelled, pounding my fist on the door. I waited for her to cuss me out, something I would expect from me talking to her like that. I never screamed at her before. But there was nothing, just the occasional drip from the shower head. I won't deny that I was scared, too afraid to open the damn door and face my own wife. I waited another 30 minutes or so, which feels like a fucking lifetime when you're scared. Finally, I decided I wasn't going to spend the night hiding in my bathroom, so I got down on my knees and peered under the door. I almost expected to see her face peeking back at me, but thankfully it didn't. I could see straight down the hallway to the top of the stairs, but no Lynn. I didn't know if I should be happy about that or not. I looked for a few minutes, waiting to see her head pop up over the top step, but it never came. I stood up, my hand hovering over the door, and mentally prepared myself to open it. I slowly turned the lock with shaky fingers and was about to yank it open when I heard a sound that still makes me feel nauseous when I think about it. A moan, louder than before, but this time I was able to tell just where it was coming from. I turned my head to the closet door as if in slow motion, and locked eyes with my wife, who was peeking out at me from the slight gap. Her eyes were still wide as ever, and her mouth was hanging open in the most grotesque gaping smile I'd ever seen. I didn't even scream. I was too scared for even that. Her hands were clasped to her chest, body trembling with sheer delight, as if she could barely contain her excitement. A short, raspy moan bubbled up from her throat, deep and raw, sending a shiver down my body. Somehow I found the ability to pull the bathroom door open and ran as fast as I could all the way down the steps, snagging my keys and phone from the table in the living room before running outside to my car. I could hear her shrill laughter behind me, but I didn't hear her getting closer. I didn't bother shutting the front door. I drove away from the house faster than I legally should have, shivering the entire time, either from fear or the cold, maybe a little bit of both. I hadn't grabbed a coat or even a pair of shoes. I was still in my boxers and my hair was still damp. So she had pretended to leave the bathroom and she ended up hiding in the closet in the bathroom and was peeking at him the entire time. He was locked in the closet, by the way.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, so like he didn't hear her. Like he heard like a little sound and then he thought it was coming from outside.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until she made another sound that he had locked himself in the bathroom for what 1.5 hours? Like scared of her. And yeah, so she was inside the room with him the whole time.
Windborn.
It was not that, we don't know. The ending was actually very vague, Windborn. So the ending to that story was very vague.
Yeah.
I drove straight to my brother Chris's house, about 40 minutes away. Ignoring any and every call and text I got, I didn't check my phone until I was safely parked in my brother's driveway. Lynn had called 4 times and sent a flurry of texts, all wondering where I'd gone and why I left, quote-unquote, like that. I threw my phone at the dash in a rage, furious at her nonchalant attitude. My brother and his wife were surprised to see me, especially dressed in just a pair of boxers, but told me to stay as long as I needed. Chris lent me some clothes and asked me what happened. I told him Lynn and I had a fight, but didn't get into the details. I didn't want him to think I was overreacting, leaving my wife over a prank, even if it was a strange one. I mean, hadn't I encouraged her for years to lighten up instead of being so serious all the time? I had wanted her to relax and loosen up, but this was definitely not what I'd had in mind. I tried to sleep on the sofa, but my brain wouldn't let me sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lynn's face staring at me from inside the closet. Knowing she'd been in there with me the entire time made my skin crawl. She never left the fucking bathroom at all. Instead, she slipped inside the closet and slammed the bathroom door shut to fool me. The mere thought of going back home gave me anxiety. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Chris ended up giving me a sleeping pill so I was able to get a little rest. My sleep was filled with terrible dreams. All of Lynn's smiling face. I woke up just as the sun started to rise. My sore body ached from the sofa, and I felt drained. I knew I'd have to call Lynn at some point, but I didn't know what to say to her. I wouldn't be going home unless she gave me her word she'd never do any more creepy shit. I just wanted my wife back. Her normal, serious self never looked so good to me. I was contemplating calling her and telling her that when that familiar feeling came over me. I was being watched. I was staring at the ceiling, my heart in my throat. I didn't want to look away. The longer I ignored the feeling, the worse it got. My eyes drifted away from the ceiling almost on their own. Her face was pressed up against the window beside the couch, staring down at me with that same gaping smile. Drool dribbled down her lips. I know, what the actual fuck, right? Drool dribbled down her lips, leaving 2 long streaks down the glass. I didn't know how long she'd been there, but something told me she'd been there quite a while, possibly all night. I didn't bother screaming, though I was afraid anger trumped any fear I felt at that moment. I jumped up from the couch and pounded my palm against the glass. Lynn, are you crazy? What the hell is wrong with you? Just go home, I shouted. Now! I could hear Chris and his wife moving around upstairs. As if Lynn could hear them from her place outside, her head twitched slightly in their direction, and she began to close her mouth slowly. Chris called my name from upstairs, obviously concerned. I turned to see him and his wife Rebecca hurrying down the steps. When I turned back, the window Lynn was gone. The only sign she'd been there at all was the 2 streaks of drool still dripping down the glass. I tried to explain to Chris and Rebecca about waking up to see Lynn watching me through their window. They were skeptical. Who wouldn't be? Chris and I went outside to the spot in front of the window, but there were no footprints in the dirt, just a slight indent. Animal, probably, Chris guessed, and I didn't argue. He and Rebecca assumed I dreamt the entire episode, but they didn't understand, and I was too tired to explain it to them. I would be explaining this shit to my family like day one.
Yeah.
I would. Because, like, what the heck, right?
Yeah.
I called out of work that day and turned my cell off. I didn't want to face Lynn. Just talking to her was too much for me at that point. I really started to believe something was irreversibly wrong with her, that no matter what promises she made, we'd never be the same again. The thought saddened me to my core. I cried most of the morning. By noon, I figured I was ready to confront her. Give her one last chance to explain herself. I could at least give her that after 6 years, I told myself. I turned my phone on and saw the dozens of texts she'd sent, all from seemingly concerned wife. Can we talk? I love you. Please call me. I'm really worried. Can you answer? Just come home. And more of the same. All texts telling me she loved me and she wanted me home. How worried she was. Not a damn one addressing the crazy shit she pulled, like she hadn't been acting like a character from a Stephen King book. Even her texts were different. She normally texted novels just to tell me to pick up a loaf of bread. You'd think she'd have more to say to me after her bizarre shenanigans. I know it probably seems childish to some of you who are miles away from the situation, but if you saw the way Lynn had looked at me, how she scampered away on all fours like some wild animal, grinning at me from inside the closet like a lunatic, then I think you'd find my reaction was warranted. I ended up staying with Chris and Rebecca for another night. I didn't wake up yesterday until afternoon, and thankfully I didn't see Lynn's face watching me through the window. I don't want to pry because it's not my place, but is this fight something that can be mended? Rebecca asked. She'd made us both a sandwich for lunch, and I knew she wanted to breach the subject without seeming to be nosy. I don't know. She's like a different person, I said, choosing my words carefully. I still wasn't ready for her or Chris to know the full extent of the batshit craziness I'd been dealing with. Yeah, I mean, she's getting more than a little freaky is what I'm gonna say, guys. This is very freaky.
Yeah, that's like, I also feel like whenever, I don't know, maybe just in media, I guess, or in real life too, when people do weird shit and then they don't acknowledge it or explain it or like anything, that's like,
Yes,
it's like the biggest red flag ever. The horror of having to talk to your wife.
I'd be so mad. I'd literally be so mad, by the way.
Yeah.
This is why I would just kill the other person. Wait, I don't know. She's a different person, I said, choosing my words carefully. I still wasn't ready for her or Chris to know the full extent of the batshit craziness I'd been dealing with. People change, Ben, but she's still the same woman you married. Maybe you both just need to talk through your issues. Whatever's going on, I'm sure it can be fixed, she said, ever the peacemaker. I think it's beyond that now. I don't think talking would help. I just don't trust her, I said. The words stung in my heart. I missed and loved my wife. But how could I live with someone like that? Living in constant fear didn't sound too appealing. Lynn loves you. She has to be absolutely crushed, she said. I don't know about that, I said. Well, she certainly seemed like it to me. I've never seen her so upset. Very much unlike the Lynn I know, Rebecca said, shaking her head sadly. It took a full minute for her words to really sink in, and when they did, I felt dread worming its way through my skin. Wait, what do you mean? You saw her? You saw Lynn? I asked, my mouth suddenly dry. Rebecca nodded casually, as if that fact wasn't nightmare fuel. Maybe for her, it wasn't. She stopped by this morning just after Chris left for work, she said, cleaning the plates from the table. I didn't see her car, though. Maybe she took an Uber or something. Heck, what did she say? Did she come inside? I asked, sweat starting to break out on my forehead. I began looking around, examining corners as though a predator lurked behind them. No, she just asked if you were awake yet, and I said that you weren't. I asked if she wanted me to wake you, but she said no, just to let you sleep, she said as she washed the dishes. That's all? She didn't say anything else? I asked. No. She looked awful, though, like she hadn't slept in days. I think you should call her. I got up from the table and thanked Rebecca for lunch. I felt a little bit better at the knowledge that at least she hadn't come inside. Still, I needed to double check that the doors were locked. I sat for a while trying to figure out what to do next. I didn't want to go home, but I felt that I owed it to Lynn to help her if I could. Hadn't I sworn an oath to love and honor her through sickness and in health? Clearly, she was very sick. If she was sick, which I truly believed she was, I had to try and get her the help she needed. But I didn't even know where to start. I didn't want to call the police, and besides, what the hell was I going to tell them? That my wife was peeking at me? That she was being creepy? As bizarre as she'd been, she still hadn't committed any crime. Not yet, anyway. The police would have probably said that I was overreacting, but this wasn't some prank. It felt wrong. Dangerous, even, like something sinister lurked beneath her smile. I knew as her husband I was well within my rights to have her committed, but what if she simply acted normal in their presence? She'd obviously been able to fool Rebecca into thinking she was just a concerned wife. As long as the doctors didn't find her a danger to herself or others, they'd have no choice but to release her after 72 hours. I felt lost and overwhelmed. So I did what any husband in my position would do. I called her mother. I didn't want to, believe me. Her mother, Marianne, and I were never on the best terms. We never fought or anything like that. She just wasn't a very warm person, and wasn't really easy to get along with. She hardly ever smiled, and when she did, only her lips would move into a thin-lipped smile, leaving her eyes as blank as before. She gave off this aura that felt like she was permanently on the offensive. I'd only met her twice, and both times were for such short visits. I got the impression that she didn't approve of me for her daughter. Lynn always ushered us out quickly, as she didn't want me to feel uncomfortable, which I was grateful for. Being in her mother's company felt almost unbearable, like walking on glass. I was glad when we moved 3 states away so we didn't have to see her often. I was happy to avoid the woman, but I needed her help. I really didn't want to talk to her at all, but I had to talk to someone, and someone who knew Lynn better than I did, so I grit my teeth and did what I had to. Yes, she answered, already sounding irritated. Oh, Marianne, it's me, Ben. Do you have a minute to talk? I asked. I could hear her cluck her tongue in irritation. I'm in the middle of writing some checks, but if you insist, I suppose I could spare a moment. What is it you want to discuss, Benjamin? She said coolly. It's about Lynn.
A full name.
She's been... I know. Her called Benjamin.
Benjamin.
It's about Lynn. She's been acting strangely, and I was wondering if you had any idea whether there was something... I was quickly interrupted. It's a bit difficult to follow your rambling, Benjamin. What is it you want from me? She asked. I could almost see her standing there in her thin sweater and slacks, tapping her fingernails impatiently on the table. I wanted to know if you'd ever noticed any odd behavior or possibly any mental health issues? I asked. There was a long, uncomfortable pause that I couldn't tell was because she was thinking or something else. Finally, after a few seconds, she spoke. I'm not sure if this is one of your jokes, Benjamin, but if so, I don't find the humor in it. Now, I do have business to attend to, as I've said, so if you don't mind, she said, but I cut her off before she could get rid of me. Marianne, it's not a joke. I'm sincerely concerned about Lynn's mental health. Her behavior has been very erratic lately. I'm very worried about her, and I figured as her mother, you would be as well. I said, my frustration evident in my voice. If you're truly concerned, then I suggest you get the health professionals involved. I don't know what you expect of me, she snapped. I could tell she was seconds away from hanging up for some reason. I was desperate not to let her. I had the feeling that she knew a lot more than she was letting on. Please, if not for me, do it for Lynn, I tried. I heard a faint, shaky intake of breath, as if she were trying to hold her steely persona together, but failing. Marianne, what's wrong? I started. Benjamin, I don't know what to tell you. My only advice would be to seek professional help. Do not call her again. Goodbye. I tried to call out to her, but she'd hung up. I tried to wrap my head around the call and her refusal to help me. Even if she didn't like me, why wouldn't she want to help her own daughter? I couldn't understand that. I tried to replay the conversation, desperate to find something I missed. After a while, I almost gave up, until I remembered her last words to me. Seek professional help. She'd said those words with a bit of urgency. I could have been grasping at straws, but no, I was sure her voice had changed ever so slightly when she said that, as if they were very important. What had she meant? I assumed she'd been referring to medical professionals, but maybe she was referring to someone else. Someone that she didn't, for some reason, feel comfortable saying directly, or maybe I was just desperate. I waited for Chris to get home, and after a very long and exhausting conversation with him and Rebecca, I convinced them that Lynn truly needed psychiatric help. I didn't tell them everything. I wasn't prepared to go into it yet, but I told them about our last encounter, how she'd hidden in the bathroom, peeking at me from the closet. They were obviously shocked, but thankfully they believed me. They too just wanted to help her. Still, they didn't think it was all that serious. Weird, maybe. but not dangerous. They just kept saying that Lynn had to be playing some kind of weird joke. Maybe for YouTube? Rebecca offered, if only half-heartedly. For the content.
YouTube mention.
YouTube mention, guys. Chris didn't think we should involve the police just yet. He offered instead to go with me, and I readily accepted. He reasoned that calmly talking to her, trying to coax her into going willingly, was the best recourse. I agreed to do it his way. At least I wouldn't be going into that house alone. We drove over this morning, just after breakfast. There was no way I was going in at night. When we pulled into the driveway, my stomach began doing somersaults. Her car wasn't there, but I still didn't let my guard down. The front door was ajar, and for a split second I thought we'd see her eyes staring through the gap. I was shaking and starting to sweat. Chris, however, was fine. He waited for me to open the door, his hands in his pockets like he was going on a fucking stroll through the park. I envied his ignorance.
Psychological trauma. Trauma response.
I know. I pushed the door open and was immediately hit with the stench of rot. Chris smelled it too, and he walked in the house behind me with his nose scrunched up. Well, what do you guys use for cleaning the floors around here? Shit? Chris mumbled. Shut up, I said, my eyes darting around for any signs of Lynn. The house was deadly quiet and dark despite being 10 in the morning. All the curtains were closed up tight, refusing to allow any sunlight inside. If I hadn't left it just 2 days prior, I'd have thought the house to be abandoned. We moved through each room, carefully checking any place that she might hide, occasionally calling her name. Why the fuck are you looking under the couch? Chris asked eventually. Aren't we looking for your wife? He was looking at me like I was a moron. Oh, let's just go upstairs, I whispered. He shook his head but followed me up the stairs to check the bathroom and spare bedroom. On the way up, my shoes crunched over pieces of glass that looked to be littered over a few of the steps. I noticed that one of Lynn and my wedding portraits that hung on the wall along the staircase had been smashed. The frame hung crookedly, all the glass removed. I stared at the picture, a lump forming in my throat. We had taken the photo just after leaving the church, after saying our vows. She looked so beautiful in her white gown. I looked at Lynn's beautiful face. I never dreamed her face would ever be a source of terror for me. We climbed the rest of the steps and checked the spare bedroom, but it looked completely untouched. I was hesitant to go into the bathroom, my fear from that night coming back to me all at once. Chris noticed and offered to go in by himself, but I couldn't let him do that, so we walked in together, checking the closet and the shower. The bathroom looked like as if it hadn't been touched since the night I left. I don't think she's here, Ben. Why don't you pack some clothes and we'll try coming back tomorrow or something, Chris said. I nodded and went into our bedroom and shoved some clothes into a duffel bag. When I checked inside our closet, I came across the source of the smell and gagged. Chris took one look and lost all color in his face. He had to go stand by the stairs to get away from the sight and smell. I gazed down in shock at what lay inside my bedroom closet. Soaking into the rug were at least a dozen eyeballs, all carefully laid out in pairs. Some were as large as a quarter, while others were as tiny as a marble. I stared down at the eyes she'd collected from small animals, and I wondered how she'd gotten them, and shuddered at the thought. Man, I thought I had it bad with Becca's shoe addiction, but fuck me, your wife's in here collecting eyeballs, Chris said, gagging. Ben, I think we should go, he called from the hall. I'm getting nauseous. All right. I grabbed my duffel and shut the closet door on my new nightmare. I stepped out into the hall and took a deep breath of air. I could taste the rot on my tongue, and I couldn't help but gag.
No.
Who the fuck lines up eyeballs in their closets like that? Chris mumbled. I tried to tell you she needed help, I said. She doesn't need help, Ben. She needs a fucking exorcist, he said. You coming or what? I can't stand the smell in you. His words died in his throat, and his eyes grew wide with fear. I didn't ask him why. I could feel it. Someone was watching me, and I didn't think it was the eyes in the closet. I turned around, my eyes slowly scanning the bedroom. Christ, I whispered as I finally saw what we'd missed. Under the bed, curled on her side, watching us with the excitement of a kid on Christmas morning, was my wife. She held her hands together just under her chin, and they were shaking eerily. Now that she knew she'd been found, I could hear the quiet noises she was making, a sort of hiccuping sound in her throat, as if the excitement was just too much for her. It was unnerving, to say the least, wide eyes and that same huge smile. Everything in me told me to run, but I forced it away. This was my wife. No matter how twisted she was still the woman I married. I had to help her. Lynn, I said softly. She didn't respond, but her head bobbed back and forth in two quick little movements, as if she were nodding. Baby, I just want to help, okay? Can you let me do that? I asked. I had taken a single step forward, approaching her like some kind of dangerous animal. I love you, Lynn, I said softly, taking another step closer. She let a tiny moan escape her wide-open mouth, and I had to resist the urge to run. Her shoulders were starting to quiver, and her eyes grew as large as saucers. I crouched down so I could see her better, and immediately saw the blood. Her hands were covered in it. They trembled more the closer I got, as if she was barely able to contain herself. Lynn, are you hurt? You're bleeding, I said, and she bobbed her head again, her bloody fingers moving up and down as if playing an invisible piano. They occasionally grazed her chin, leaving smears of blood on her skin. I wanted to recoil in disgust. The smell that was coming off of her was revolting. I could feel the vomit trying to climb up my throat. Her lips were dry and stretched thin, blood seeping between the cracks. I knew she wouldn't come out on her own, but I didn't want to leave her in the state she was in. I scooted closer and reached out to her. The excited hiccuping sounds got louder and her hands shook, fingers flexing. It was then I could see the blood oozing from in between her fingers. Oh my god, Lynn, you're bleeding, I said. Instinctively, I reached out to take her hand, but before I could even touch her, her hand sprang towards me. A sharp pain shot through my arm, and I fell back on my ass. My arm burned, and I could see the blood dripping down onto the carpet. I looked back at her in shock and saw her grinning madly, her fingers clutching a large shard of glass. You all right in there? Chris asked from behind me. I turned my head slightly and nodded to him, cradling my arm to my chest. When I turned back to face Lynn, I saw that her focus had shifted. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She wasn't smiling anymore, either. She was staring past me, her eyes glaring at Chris the way a hungry lion might stare at an antelope. Her mouth was still hanging open, but it was twisted in a snarl. I got to my feet and began walking backwards down the hall, afraid to take my eyes off of her. Are you bleeding? Chris asked. The moment the words left his mouth, Lynn started fast scooting out from under the bed, the glass shard still in her fist. Chris, run, go! I yelled. He must have been too afraid to move, because a second later I felt my back bump into him. He was still standing at the top of the stairs, staring at the horror that was my wife. Lynn had crawled completely out from under the bed and stood in the bedroom doorway, her face twisted in rage. Her whole body was visibly tense. Blood ran down her fingers and onto the floor. Jesus, Lynn, Chris said. You, playing hide and seek? I reached back and pushed him toward the steps. Move your ass, Chris, I said as quietly but firmly as I could. Lynn bobbed her head in fast, sharp motions and began to grin, stretching her mouth open wider and wider so that her chin seemed to touch her chest. I heard Chris mutter a prayer.
I don't like it.
Pretty freaky, right?
It's stressing me out. I realize that I've been sitting here like gripping my chair because I'm like,
that's a good.
I don't like it. All right, keep going.
Lynn bobbed her head in fast, sharp motions and began to grin, stretching her mouth wider and wider so that her chin seemed to touch her chest. I heard Chris mutter a prayer, and then he was running down the stairs. I stood at the top of the steps, stuck between the love for a woman who clearly needed serious help and self-preservation. I only want to help, I said, choking back tears. Her eyes focused on me once again, and she slowly lifted the glass, holding it out in front of her. And then she started sprinting towards me, grinning with utter excitement. Thankfully, my body took over, and I flew down the stairs, skipping 2 or 3 at a time. I made it to the front door before I felt her leap onto my back, wrapping her arms around my neck, her open mouth next to my ear so that I could hear those terrible hiccuping sounds up close. I shook her off me, knocking her to the floor. I felt a searing pain in my back as she went, but I tore open the front door and bolted to my car. Chris was standing in the front yard, talking on the phone with the police. I didn't say a word. I just ran to my car and jumped in. Chris took the hit and followed me, still on the line with 911. I watched the rearview mirror, sure I'd see her there running after us, but I never did. I went straight to the ER and got 11 stitches in my arm and 3 on my back. The police asked a lot of questions and went back to the house to do a search, but of course, Lynn wasn't there. They advised me to stay with a friend or relative for a while and to file a restraining order as soon as I could, but none of those things would matter. Somehow, I just knew. I dropped Chris off at home and went to a motel an hour away. I wanted to put as much distance between me and Lynn as I could. This is where I've been for the last 4 hours. I thought maybe the police would find her. Maybe they'd get her the help she desperately needs. But now, I don't think so. Because 40 minutes ago, I got a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. I found you. And a picture attached. The picture was dark and grainy, but I instantly knew what it was. There was no mistaking my wife's eye. I started typing this out immediately after. I don't know what to do. I'm alone and scared, and I can't help but feel that I'm being watched. And that's the end of that story.
I don't like it. That's scary.
Isn't that one insane?
That's so scary.
That one was really, I knew that one was gonna be good.
Yeah, did the police find the eyeballs in the room? Guess we'll never know. I mean, I would assume so.
Yeah, I would assume that at least. Like, obviously they were like, you need to file a restraining order and like, you know?
Yeah. Yikes. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Clearly
What did
just
you
a
think of the
loving wife,
story?
right, guys? Clearly that's normal. That's just normal wife shit. That's just normal wife shit.
Normal wife behavior, I'm sure.
Why do I feel like somebody watching me? I don't like it. I'm gonna have to watch like 3 Disney movies before I go to bed tonight, because otherwise I'm not gonna sleep.
I felt like the other ones were just kind of like interesting but not scary.
Yeah.
And this one was pretty freaky. What would you say though, as like someone who like does not consume a lot of like horror media?
Like, I'd say that the other one, like, okay, so the first 2, I didn't really, it was kind of whatever. It was like, oh, that's interesting. It's just like, I don't know. But the second one, like, just like creepy weird, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
The last one, like, actually scary, I think.
Very
I think
freaky.
because the more like how do I say this, like, descriptive of unsettling situations a story is, the more realistic it feels, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I think having backstory is like also important, like saying that a character is like, oh, they're just never like this, or like, or this is like how we got to this point, not just like all of a sudden you're thrown into it, you know, like it was like a slow progression or whatever. Scary. Remember, guys, don't acknowledge it if you feel like somebody's watching, but you know there isn't any. It'll just get worse. I don't like it. I actually like jumped today. I went for like a walk. I went for a walk and I didn't have my headphones on. So I could like hear everything around me. Like I was just walking. I was walking to McDonald's because I was gonna get like a little coffee. Yeah. And I like heard like a sound behind me, and like the area that I live in is like pretty populated. Like people walk around in that area all the time, and people walk their dogs and stuff and whatever. And so I like turned around and there was like no one. And so I was like, oh, it's probably just like rustly trees or whatever. And so I kept walking, and then I heard the sound again. And when I turned around, there was like a guy that was walking behind me, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, where did he come from? He like split off very quickly and like went to walk towards like the post office or whatever. But I was like, yeah, like having a moment. Very scary. It's actually an advice a family member from a spiritualist told me because I told them I was feeling eyes on me. This was like 10 years ago.
Whoa.
Son? What you doing?
Yeah. Creepy as heck. Creepy as heck, right?
Very creepy. Thank you for doing scary story reading with me. I'm not usually, like, usually when it comes to Halloween streams, I only ever really want to do, like whimsical Halloween. Like, I love, like campy, silly Halloween, you know?
Like Scary Godmother. I love those movies. Have you ever seen
Yeah,
those?
I don't know. Big fan of like, I don't know. I was talking about this with Nexie, but like Halloween Town and Hocus Pocus and like things that are Halloween themed but are not like they're not actually frightening. They're just
Yeah.
You're very brave today, Teeny. I'm proud of you. If that had been read to me in any other voice that wasn't my wife, I would have died.
Which one? Okay, wait. Which one out of the 4 stories was your favorite story?
My favorite story?
Yep.
I mean, is it fair of me to say that I didn't like any of them? They all stressed me out. But like,
that's fair.
I think that the last one was the best out of all of them.
For sure. Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
Yeah. I think the first one had a lot of potential to be really crazy if they had put more into it. Like if they gave it more time and more information and like more, then it would have been good. I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh, this is like I guess like a real life story, but also like probably part of the reason why that story was so scary to me is because I had a teacher when I was in middle school who used to tell us like all the crazy stories about his life. And he had one story about his like ex-wife who he had married when he was like very, very young, like probably freshly like 20 years old. He had just married this girl. Wow. She when she met him, she found out that he was like Roman Catholic, and she always wanted like a Roman Catholic wedding in like a really big, beautiful cathedral or whatever. And so they got married like very shortly after knowing each other, so they didn't really know each other that well before they got married. And like this was a story that he like told us over the course of like the whole year, so we like learned more about it like as the year went on. But he told us basically that he had married this woman like freshly when he was 20 and then didn't really know her, moved in with her. Things were like fine for a while. And then all of a sudden she just like stopped talking to him, like would not like respond to anything that he would say. And so he started doing things to try to like annoy her so that she would start like responding to him. To like try to get a reaction out of her, basically. Huh?
Was he peeking at her?
I don't know. But he was doing things that would like make her upset. Like she had her friends who would call the home phone, and so he would pick up before she could get to the phone, and he would be like, oh, she's not here right now, and then not take messages on her behalf or whatever, and like hang up so that hopefully she would like get upset and like start talking to him or whatever.
Yeah.
And eventually, he just did enough shit that pushed her buttons that instead of her talking to him, she went super crazy mode and like chased him around the house and out of the house with a knife. And then he had to like call the police and like get a restraining order and like a whole bunch of stuff. And like, I guess he saw her like years later and she was like happily married in a new relationship and was normal. But like, I don't know. It's just like crazy. So I think that's why that story, like the last one specifically, I'm like, because the plausibility is like so there, you know?
Yeah, just... I hate to say this to you, Teeny, but you better watch it. You're married.
I know! Guys, Dandy's gonna get me. Just kidding. Just kidding. Surely it's fine, right? Not before I do. What the hell?
Yeah, some spooky stories for the month.
Yeah. this week we have a lot going on. In case you guys didn't see, I did post something on the group account about Vivaria's Halloween. So we have lots of events that are ongoing. Tomorrow is Nexi's 3D Halloween karaoke. As well as Dreamy is releasing a cover of Hex Girl, which is exciting.
I am, yes.
Yeah, and then we do also have trick-or-treating on Vivaria SMP tomorrow night. And then on the 26th, which is Sunday, we have Majorina big group collab with Vivaria SMP people. And then on the 27th, I have my big group cover that I've been working on that I've been posting all about in Discord and on Twitter. And then Dreamy at the very end of the month has the last look at VTuber Zomboid. Did we get to the mall? Did we get there?
Yes, we're at the mall, and now,
Awesome.
First of all, the power and water goes out tomorrow, by the way.
Okay.
So now everyone's just scrambling to set up the generators and like make the rain barrels and stuff like that, and make it like a livable base. And Bree made an extremely cute rooftop garden, and I think the roof is safe to go up to now. But everyone was falling off the roof and like breaking their legs in the game.
Yeah, you said that like more people died from like fall damage than they did from getting
from zombies. After like we got to the mall, more people were dying from fall damage than to zombies, which I was like, this is like insane. What is going on?
And then at the very end of the schedule on October 31st, there's a big exciting surprise. So if you didn't check that out on Twitter yet on the Vivaria official account, I recommend that you do. And we'll be posting some things as the week goes on. Yeah! Yippee!
Yippee! Yeah, guys, I'm in the Happy Halloween cover on Teeny's channel, by the way.
Yeah! Dreamy and Kato and Bear and Orla and all of the various project girls are in the big group cover. So I'm excited! Yippee!
Very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah! Okay, well, I'm gonna go not sleep.
It's okay. You just gotta watch like a fun movie like When Harry Met Sally or something like that, you know?
I gotta play Minecraft. Maybe that will fix me.
Yeah, maybe that'll calm you down.
Yeah, I don't know.
I felt like none of them were really scary, but the last one was obviously very creepy.
Yeah, it's like, I think what's scary about it is like the real life potential, you know?
Yes, very freaky.
Yeah.
Very
Miss
freaky.
The whole stream? Well, guess you'll have to watch the VOD. Guess you'll have to watch the VOD.
But
What
this was
can
very
you do?
fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. I love you. I'm happy you're
I love you
back.
too.
I'm happy
Oh my
you
God,
survived
yes.
the horror story that was no internet, no power.
Just crazy shit, you know? I'm glad to be back, guys. Glad to be back. Glad to be back.
I
But
don't
yes.
think I'm gonna raid. I think I'm just gonna call it a day. So I hope you guys will have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow for trick or treating of Vivaria SMP. Yay! Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.